Hello, this is the Progressive Cynic, and in this video I will be talking about Affluenza and what could be the most unjust prison sentence in recent memory. In July 2013, Ethan Couch was a 16-year-old Texas teenager who one night robbed a Walmart for liquor with a bunch of his friends, cramming 7 of them into his pickup truck, and he went speeding off into the night. While driving that night, he hit and killed 4 people. 2 of his friends were also thrown from the car, and one of them received brain injuries, which has rendered him incapable of either speaking or moving, and the other had severe internal injuries but is much more stable. Obviously, Ethan Couch was caught and he was sentenced. He was sentenced with manslaughter, and he pled guilty. Now, this is not an unusual situation in and of itself. Kids drink and drive. People get hurt when people drink and drive. But, unfortunately, that's where this case takes an incredibly unusual turn. Ethan Couch was sentenced to 10 years of probation under a ridiculous sentencing by a judge. While prosecutors asked for 20 years, Judge Jean Boyde took the advice of a psychiatrist named Dr. G. Dick Miller and gave him 10 years under the argument that Couch was suffering from affluenza. Now, affluenza is a frankly non-existent psychological condition which is characterized by rich people believing themselves to be above the law and unable to rationally assess the consequences of their actions. It's a variety of insanity defense, except instead of insanity, making it impossible for people to judge the consequences of their actions and thus be held liable under the law, it argues that rich people are just Couch was left alone by his parents, given as much money as he wanted, and they never disciplined him at all. Thus, how can the law hold him responsible? Put simply, this entire argument is both ridiculous and indicative of a much larger problem. Look, this is a case where the guy actually got off because he was wealthy. It's not a matter of wealthy people are able to hire better lawyers, wealthy people are able to put more money into their defense, they don't have to deal with public defenders who are often overworked. No. This case is an example of the guy actually being let off with a much, much lesser sentence because he has wealth, and because of his wealth, he was unable, he didn't think he'd get into any sort of big trouble. Put simply, the therapist who was involved in this should have his license pulled and should be mocked by everyone and everyone in his profession, and he should simply lose his livelihood. There's no responsible way you can make this argument, and there's also no way you should be able to use this for a defense. In fact, it's not, strictly speaking, a legal defense. There's something called the Dalbert test, which Texas uses. It's actually a federal, it's part of the federal laws of evidence, but the Texas courts have adopted it as their own, along with 31 other states. In order for any sort of scientific evidence to be valid at trial, there are 4 requirements which must be met. 1, the theory is tested. 2, the theory has been peer-reviewed. 3, the reliability and error rate has been determined. And 4, the extent of general acceptance by the scientific community. Basically, it has to be tested and confirmed. Other scientists have to have actually repeated these tests and confirmed that it is a valid hypothesis or theory sometimes. And basically, it needs to be accepted. You can't, look, you give me a couple $1 million, I can go get a team of experts who are willing to claim almost anything. I mean, there are a certain number of people in these professions who are willing to sell their expertise in order to help people get off from murder Or you also see them in the environmental or anti-environmental movement, where oil companies pay some greedy scientists to lie for them. You saw it with tobacco as well. It's not hard to do and it will always exist, which is why we usually have the Dahlberg test. Because this is sentencing and not trial, they were allowed to present this ridiculous case, and the judge bought it. She should simply be kicked off the bench. There's no excuse for this. It's ridiculous and it's unjust. Look, is 20 years too long for some 16-year-old who made a stupid mistake? Personally, I think he killed 4 people. He crippled 2 others. He stole. Yeah, he has to go away. 20 years. That's, yeah, I'd put him away for the entire time. If she'd gone a little lower than that and said, okay, he was just drunk and stupid and maybe he can reform if given some time, I'm going to give him 15 years or even like 12 years. Okay, that would be understandable and that would be a much more principled way to look at this. But no, she said, oh, he's rich, he couldn't have assessed his actions, let's let him go. So this kid is not out on the street yet. He will be going to a treatment center, which is being paid for by his parents. That costs roughly $500,000 a year. And before you start thinking this is going to be some serious hardship for him, it's a palatial facility that offers equestrian therapy, which means, yes, he can take horseback riding classes as part of his therapy. In short, it's a country club that's masquerading as a treatment center, sort of similar to the drug treatment centers that very, very, very wealthy people will send their kids to. Look, this entire situation is a tragedy, and it illustrates that there are 2 justice systems in the United States. There's a justice system for rich people, where they get either a slap on the wrist or nothing at all, and then there's a justice system for poorer people. In fact, there's an example of this. In Texas, a couple of years ago, there is a man named Johan Rodriguez. He's an illegal immigrant who he actually got into a very similar situation as Ethan Couch. He got drunk. They had the same blood alcohol content, 0.24, which is 3 times the legal limit. He got into his car and he hit a police officer who was going to help a motorist. This is an analogous situation, except it was 1 police officer who was killed instead of 3 pedestrians, or 3 Good Samaritans who were trying to help the motorist. He was arrested, convicted, and he's now spending 55 years in jail. He obviously could not claim affluenza because, oh, he was one of the poor people. And because everyone knows the poor people don't get off, and so they can easily assess their actions. If you break the law, you're going to go to jail. Look, there's almost nothing that can be done to remedy this situation, but we can make damn sure it doesn't happen in the future. Rich people should not be allowed to claim that they are above the law, and it's a travesty when the law proves them right. Look, affluenza is made up, and if we start seeing this in future cases, we could be in for a real problem. The belief that you are above the law causes people to do really unpleasant things. And what type of message does this send to all the rich people? Oh yeah, get drunk, drive, kill a few people, you may be on probation for a little bit, but you can just claim, oh, I'm rich. I didn't think I could actually get in trouble for something, so obviously you can't get me in trouble. Look, if this starts catching on, rich people will simply become above the law. The law will become a function of personal wealth. And, well, poor people are going to keep flooding into the jails under nonviolent crimes, while rich people are going to keep skating for horrible crimes. This just can't happen in a fair justice system, and we need reform. Thank you. This has been The Progressive Cynic. Please follow my blog, theprogressivecynic.com, and my YouTube channel.